it going, everybody? We are live. Welcome back to Flurry Sports. Every single Monday, like last season, we're just going to be hopping on. We're going to be going through the fantasy football news, talking about waiver wire ad drops, talking to you about your trade advice, ad drop advice. Truly, any questions you have, definitely ask them. If you have the question, chances are a lot of people are searching for it as well. So, definitely let us know what's up. Fantasy football turf war. Uh, Not a great week one over there. Not a great week one. Had a lot of duds. That was an interesting. A lot of. I mean, that's kind of the theme of week one this year. I feel like a lot of studs did not perform. It looked really bad even for like a Tyreek Hill until the very end there. At least hit that prop. But yeah, we're just going to be hanging out, answering some fantasy football questions. We go over the trending players like we do, the top 5 trending in each direction like we did last year. We will start with that like we always do. Then we'll give some start sit advice maybe for tonight if you have some DFS stuff, but waiver wire questions, trade questions, all of the above, anything and everything you have questions about, we will answer it. But let's start with the trending players on Sleeper. Why don't we? Bringing this up, I didn't even look at it because I wanted to be surprised. Okay, so top 5 trending players. I mean, some are interesting. I hear number 1 most trending player on Sleeper Fantasy right now is Justice Hill. He has been picked up in over 19,000 leagues, still rostered in only 11% of leagues. This is someone we talked about a little bit heading into the season. It was not a surprise to play it out exactly as, especially I said in the Underdog article, but the Ravens love Justice Hill. He is their third down guy. If the Ravens are in a close game, if they're in a 2-minute drill on third downs, everything like that. 1, they're going to manage the workload of Derrick Henry. But 2, Justice Hill is just a vastly superior receiving back. He does it extremely well. He is going to continue to get, I would assume, 2 to 5 catches per game, and then he'll mix in for a couple carries as well. He's not going to do too much damage on the ground. But if you're in a PPR league, Justice Hill is more than serviceable as a flex play, I would say. For the most part, touchdown upside, not very high because he's got 2 mammoths that can run the ball on the goal line, right? You got Derrick Henry and then Lamar Jackson's a mammoth in his own right. And I will say, though, Justice Hill is not a handcuff. People make this confusion all the time. Justice Hill is the very clear RB2. He's going to see, depending on the game script, he's going to see between 35 and 65% of the snaps, right? But if Derrick Henry goes down, Justice Hill isn't the RB1. Justice Hill isn't going to be taking on the Derrick Henry role. They play vastly superior, vastly different styles. And if Derrick Henry goes down, Justice Hill may get a few more carries, but he's going to remain the receiving back, and then somebody else will come in to be that early down guy. But I do like Justice Hill. I am surprised that he's the most trending player. Number 2, this is also surprising. Have we not learned our lesson? Alexander Madison has been picked up in, I said 19,000 for Justice Hill. It's 191,000 leagues he's been picked up in. Alexander Madison's been picked up in 163,000 leagues, owned in 10% of Sleeper Fantasy leagues right now. And yeah, he had a big play for the Raiders. I think Zamir White is still the lead back, and neither moved the needle for me. Like, neither are very interesting. Neither are big play threats for the most part. Neither are supremely talented. Alexander Madison's going to be a plotter. He is going to be there. He is going to be relevant on the team. But for fantasy, I'd avoid it. Number 3, I was a little afraid he was going to be here because I've actually never heard his name said out loud. And I'm going to butcher it. Andre Iosivas. No shot that's how you pronounce his last name. Andre for the Bengals. He's been picked up at 139,000 leagues. Number 3 most trending player on Sleeper. And the Bengals, man, I don't know if you've learned a single thing from the Bengals week 1 game. Were they looking ahead to Kansas City? Was the offseason drama too much? I think there's a lot of issues. The Bengals they're not like an unbelievable team for the most part anyways. I think missing T. Higgins was a big big issue. If I'm the Bengals, I mean, fuck, pay T. Higgins. He's the one who didn't play and they were terrible. Jamar Chase played and he was terrible. But yeah, I don't know if you need Andre. I'm going to go by his first name because I know I nailed that. He got 6 targets, 3 catches, 26 yards. You don't need to pick him up. He's fine. He's fine. He's going to get you a couple points, but he is not going to move the needle for your fantasy team. And it would take a lot for him to be a start-worthy play. And, given the Bengals' drama and injuries and stuff like that, certainly the stars could align, but I don't think there's a need to do anything there. Number 4, Malik Willis for the Packers. Jordan Love, obviously, sprained MCL, out 3 to 6 weeks. Reported on that pretty heavily. Obviously, a Packers guy here with ties in the building, especially the injury room. But yeah, I mean, Jordan Love's going to be out for a month, I would assume. And the next man up is Malik Willis. Malik Willis has been there almost as long as you and I have, meaning that he was traded in, doesn't know the offense, isn't ready to be a regular season quarterback. Packers are exploring other quarterbacks. They have contacted Ryan Tannehill. They have contacted these players. That's all true. Okay. They've contacted these players. However, they're like, Ryan, would you like to join the Packers? Ryan Tannehill's like, hey, I'm actually only looking for a contender. Packers are saying, yeah, you're only looking for a contender. And Tannehill's like, yeah, only looking for a contender. Sorry. They're on different pages right now. And immediately after getting kind of the doors shut in their face, the Packers were like, we're actually not even contacting Ryan Tannehill. We're kidding. We're not contacting him. So I don't know if Tannehill's coming in. They're going to have to fork up more money for that to make sense for him. But I don't know if the Packers would go with Malik Willis either. Anyway, either way, you don't need to pick up Malik Willis. I would assume the Packers make a different move for a quarterback. Probably free agent. I don't know if the Packers would be aggressive enough to trade for 2 quarterbacks in the same season in the same month. Doesn't really seem like a Green Bay move. So I say that to say Jameis Winston, Joe Flacco. I don't know if those guys are on the table for the Packers, but they could sign a Mike White off of the Buffalo Bills practice squad. They could sign a Brian Hoyer. Does that get you excited? It probably shouldn't get you too excited. Packers quarterback, you're probably staying away from it. And then the number 5 most trending player on Sleeper Fantasy is Alec Pierce. 130,000 teams have picked him up in Sleeper, owned in only 2%. This is a guy I was extremely high on coming out of college, deep threat. He's a super athletic guy, shades of Jordy Nelson for obvious skin tone reasons. But, it just he couldn't put it together in a consistent way. So we saw what Alec Pierce did week 1. He caught a couple really deep passes. He looked great. This is what he was supposed to do, but they were low percentage plays. And I cannot imagine that there's any consistency to what he did. I hope there is, because I love him as a player and I think he's a good talent. I just can't imagine with the way they used him and the plays that he converted. Those do not seem like high percentage, consistent plays. So Alec Pierce, if you're in a deep league, if you have a roster spot, if you want to play around with that a little bit, sure, go ahead, pick him up. But I think there's better options at wide receiver. I think there's better options for pickups, and we will get into those in a little bit. Let's look at the most trending down. We don't need to talk about these too much. One very interesting game, actually. But we don't need to get into this too much. It's just kind of fun to look at. The most trending down player, the most dropped player in Sleeper Fantasy Football is Cole Kmet. He's been dropped in almost 126,000 leagues, rostered in 71% still. And yeah, Cole Kmet, huge disappointment week 1, as were a lot of tight ends that you probably drafted. So, Cole Kmet's not necessarily the guy that you need to fully jump off ship for. But the Chicago offense did not look good. Caleb Williams did not look good. And I think people are also realizing, even if the Bears start looking good, Cole Kmet's not super high on the pecking order. He should be used more than he is, to be completely honest, especially in just like chip and move scenarios there. But I don't know if I would drop Cole Kmet at this moment. He's not like a full jump ship player at this current juncture. but is he a tight end 1 next week? Probably not. Jalen Polk for the Patriots dropped in 87,000. He's the second most trending player downward. And just rookie, not exciting. It's going to be a slow burn there. Probably doesn't need to be owned. Owned in 42% of leagues. That's a little high. This is the one that's interesting. We talked about Andre AI. We'll call him AI. How about that? Don't know how to pronounce his name. Third most trending player upward. He's also the third most trending player downward. So picked up in 139,000 leagues, dropped in another 83,000 leagues. Interesting. He doesn't need to be owned. So fine. Blake Corum, number 4, dropped in 80,000. That's going to be not super exciting. If Kyren Williams gets hurt and he's getting a big workload, then I do think Blake Corum is relevant there. But, until that happens, you don't need to go too crazy with him. He's owned in 75% of leagues. If Williams owner and somebody dropped Blake Corum, certainly worth the pickup there. And then number 5, the rookie with the painted nails, Caleb Williams, 5th most dropped player for fantasy. 69,000 leagues have dropped him. Still rostered in 91,000 or 91% of leagues. So it's not like people, like a ton of people are jumping ship. But yeah, if Caleb Williams got dropped, he's worth a pickup. He's worth a pickup because with his legs, if he puts his legs together, gets some chain movers, string some drives together, like he'll be okay for fantasy. We talked about this. Caleb Williams is a rookie. He's going to struggle at the beginning of the season. Then he's going to catch fire. Caleb Williams is going to have such a nice middle of the year. The Bears are going to win a bunch of games. And then at the end of the year, people are going to start to realize, maybe we shouldn't have built a spread team that relies on the pass in the windy fucking city when it's cold and snowy and rainy and the wind's blowing. It's just not going to work. Like when the games are the most important to win, the Bears offense is built in a way to not succeed. So I think each end, start of the year, end of the year, could get a little rough for Caleb Williams, but the very middle, he'll be pretty nice for fantasy. We shall see. Of course, that also depends on the health of everybody. Back on this page, so to answer your guys' questions. Anyone who watched preseason should have dropped commit a long time ago. Not wrong. You are not wrong. There's way more tight end option. Like we talked about this every single year. People get freaked out about tight ends. They talk about tight ends cannot be predictable for fantasy, worst position for fantasy. It's a very, very deep position. You just got to actually look at where the offenses are, how the offenses use tight ends, the opportunity that's available. And I think Cole Kmet's a really good talent, but the opportunity that's available to him is just not very big. They bring in 2 very good pass catchers. What do you think that's going to happen to him? Go Bills. That's the only time you're going to hear me say that out loud. Are we panicking on London and Kincaid? No. Falcons did not look good, right? I thought Darnell Mooney would look a little bit better. If Darnell Mooney emerges a little bit, I think that does help Drake London as well. But I think Drake London's fine. I think they have a pretty good receiving core. I am a Ray McLeod fan. I'm not a Kyle Pitts fan, but neither here nor there. Not relevant right now. Drake London will get better. Will he be a wide receiver 1? I don't think so. Not consistently. So if you drafted him with that in mind, I'm not panicking, but just adjust your expectations a little bit. And Kincaid should get better. The Bills have to run a lot of 12 personnel just with the personnel that they have. So Kincaid is going to be on the field with Dawson Knox, and Kincaid can get moved around. I think they want to feature him. They desperately want to feature somebody in the receiving core, and it just would not work, in week 1. But I do think Kincaid will ultimately become that person. We shall see. And drop Chuba Hubbard for Dobbins or Bucky Irving. I wrote down a few players that I, for ad drop, or mostly just waiver wire pickups that we'll talk about in a little bit. Dobbins, Bucky Irving, both there. Do you drop Chuba for either of them? And I'll say this. If you are a Rashad White owner, you 100% drop Chuba Hubbard for Bucky Irving because that guy is going to be the majority leader there if anything happens to Rashad White. If you are looking for somebody to be a starter for you, then I would drop him for Dobbins. And I don't think Dobbins is going to be consistent either. I think it's a hot hand approach there. It's going to be very similar to what Dobbins had in Baltimore, obviously under Greg Roman, also alongside Gus Edwards. It's going to be a hot hand approach. We'll see what happens. But J.K. Dobbins, if he is healthy and stays healthy, people forget. Very good player. And Chuba Hubbard, the only reason why I'm very willing to drop Chuba Hubbard, one, he's on the worst offense in the NFL, but two, I mean, the clock's ticking. If the offense is bad and hasn't figured things out in the first month of the season, then all of a sudden Jonathan Brooks is back and Chuba loses all steam anyway. So, yeah, I'm willing to drop him. It's tough because you want to be aggressive on waivers week 1. Like, you really don't want to have hesitancy here. If you can, I would love to trade him to somebody because I feel like there's still going to be a believer out there. There's going to be somebody in your league who's just desperate for volume at their fantasy running back position, and Chuba should still get volume. So if you can trade him for anything, package him with something and upgrade a position, I would love to do that. But if the sacrifice for that is not being aggressive on waivers, then you just got to cut bait because you got to pick up people week 1 and 2. You have to be aggressive. This is when the league-winning pickups happen. It's very rarely in the middle of the end of the season. Everyone acts like, oh, it's this late-season pickup, the Jerick McKinnon a couple years ago. Like, yeah, there's those players too, but these week 1 and 2 pickups are very, very important. Ralph, what's up? Welcome back. Should I be worried about Etienne and Laporta? No. With the Jags, they have continually said this offseason that they want to get Tank Bigsby more involved, and they did. So, take them at their word there. They also continue to say that they want Etienne to be a 2,000-yard guy, so 1,000 and 1,000 rushing and receiving. So I'm not worried about Etienne. Again, his touchdown upside drops dramatically if Tank Bigsby is a trustworthy back in their offense, in the same way that it drops for Jahmyr Gibbs, drops for any insert finesse runner, I'll call them, when there's a Tank as a complementary role. But I'm not worried. He's still RB1. You're good. And Laporta, you're not worried. Not at all. It was a tough matchup, and it's the same thing. Are you worried about Amon-Ra St. Brown? I'm not. The Lions have more weapons now. It is what it is. But Dan Campbell loves Sam Laporta. He loves Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they will get theirs. Not worried about that at all. I also have Jaden Reed. Good for you. Is he still a good start for the upcoming weeks? Certainly watch what they do at quarterback. But if there's one player who is going to be impacted the least, in my opinion, of like the receivers at least, it's Jaden Reed. Like, Jordan Love doesn't make Jaden Reed. Jordan Love makes nothing but bad decisions and terrible throws. A chronically inaccurate quarterback, right? I will say Jordan Love is starting to make more good decisions. I think he knows the offense now. He's just not a very talented thrower of the football. Jaden Reed is just wide ass open all the time. All the time. Like, that's why last year he was so good. It was the scheme and it was individual play. Jaden Reed is very, very, very good at football. He is, for some reason, always wide open. And anybody who comes in at quarterback should be able to get him the football, in the same way that Jordan Love fit that into a 25-yard window last game for a big play when he embarrassed CJ GJ. Would you start Godwin over London going forward? That's close. That might be matchup based. But PPR, I would feel more comfortable with Godwin. Half and less, I think I would still go London another week. But if it's full PPR, I think you can certainly consider it. Who do each guy play next week? Let's look. So Buccaneers play the Lions. So he would be attacking that slot corner, which I like more than the outside, I think. And Falcons play the Eagles on Monday Night Football. I think I would go Godwin. The only issue there is if the Buccaneers can't stop the run, the Lions will milk the clock a little bit, less possessions. That kind of sucks. but I would feel comfortable with it. The issue with Godwin last year, and people just freaked out, jumped ship, and why he was so underdrafted this year. Like Godwin played outside receiver last year for way too many snaps. It made no sense. And now he's back in the slot. He's going to be so much better, so much better. And I mean, we talked about it for my underdog season long picks. Talked about it for sleepers. Talked about like I love this not Bengals, this Buccaneers offense. Baker Mayfield's finally in a comfortable situation. Nothing about the offense has changed except for the offensive line got better. I love it. I love it. I love Chris Godwin. I like Mike Evans as long as he's healthy. I love Baker Mayfield this year. For some reason, his season long prop was at 3,600 yards, hammered the over, had probably too much money riding on the over for, obviously an injury destroys that. But I'm high on the Buccaneers. I'm high on them as a sleeper team. And if the Falcons keep playing the way the Falcons have played, Buccaneers are going to win this division. I'm not freaking out too much about that yet. I would still say the Falcons, but never know. Okay. Let's keep asking questions. Love that. If I don't get to them right away, it's because I'm not on the page where I see the questions. I'll be back. Injuries, just big relevant injuries. And again, I wrote them down. If there's other injuries you have a question about, definitely comment them. Jordan Love was the big one. Obviously, that's Friday, so that kicked everything off. The steam's died a little bit. But it is an MCL sprain. Probably 3 to 6 weeks is what it is. Packers, I assume, will have a new quarterback, one that is not currently on the team. It wouldn't be the most surprising if the Packers sign somebody and don't have them start the first week, have somebody like Sean Clifford start. We'll see. But we'll see. Doesn't matter. It brings the entire offense down a little bit, but Jordan Love isn't such a needle mover where it's like, oh, now the Packers are fucked. You know what I mean? Packers were never that good anyway. Jake Ferguson supposedly avoided an ACL tear. We'll find out more today, but he's got a knee injury. David Njoku has an ankle injury, ankle sprain. And then you have all these other tight ends who just didn't perform. I'm not worried about Travis Kelce. Mark Andrews, I am worried about because, if you've watched me, listen to me for a couple years, I'm not high on Mark Andrews anyway. And then Sam Laporta, we just talked about, not worried, but boy, we need some tight end studs to start performing. And then Puka left last night's game with a knee injury. Doesn't seem like he would play this week, but we'll find out. And then Jordan Addison left that game with an ankle injury. I do believe same ankle. So I can only imagine Jordan Addison will be missing some time as well, which blows. Is Rice an automatic start regardless of matchup and Hollywood coming back? I think so. Yeah, he just feels like a no-brainer. He is so much more talented than truly any other receiver on that roster right now. I'm not a huge Marquise Brown fan, so maybe take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, I think he's an automatic start. They get him the ball on all three levels, which is my favorite thing. So it's not like he's going to get game planned out. They're going to do screens to him. He's going to come across the middle. They will take shots to him. I do like Rashee Rice a lot. And because of all the offseason shit, that was his own creation. He has a lot to prove, and he wants to have the focus be on football. So I think, and the Chiefs do too. So I think they want to feature him. I think he wants to play really well, and I think he's a great player. Marquise Brown, I don't think is going to come back and be even like a 75% of the snap guy right away. I think they'll ease him in a little bit because, I mean, they have, a surplus of riches here. They have so many weapons at this point. And then Xavier Worthy is obviously still going to be the complimentary gadget guy in the offense who's insane. Thank you. I mean, I assume you're a Bills fan, so thank you very much for giving the Chiefs that guy. But yeah, Rice is still the wide receiver 1. Lock him in. I think he's a wide receiver 2 and better for fantasy every week. Love him. Okay. Let's talk about some players you should add for fantasy football week 2. And spoiler alert, a lot of running backs. So if you did that 0 RB strategy, if you had some running back injuries, a lot of underperforming running backs, I do think there's some guys, mixture of guys here, a couple or at least one. Yeah, a couple you can pick up and start right away. A couple who could have a very big role. I'll start with J.K. Dobbins, still under-owned. And again, people forget how talented he is when he's healthy. We just haven't seen him healthy very much, really in his career, but especially recently. But he had a big week one for the Chargers, and I think the Chargers still want to run the football a ton. Chargers are going to take a hot hand approach. So if Gus Edwards is starting to rack up those 5 yards per carries like he can do, then that doesn't help J.K. Dobbins, obviously. But if he's healthy, he is going to be the yardage leader in this backfield. He's just too good to not be on the field. So I would pick him up, and I think he's a fine flex. I don't know if I'm ready to call him a week in, week out RB2 yet. Let's see him string together 2 good games in a row. But as a flex, I think you like him. I think he's good. Zach Charbonnet. Ken Walker looked great as predicted in week 1. That's not going to last. He's going to get hurt. And Zach Charbonnet still had a pretty good game anyways. I think he had 10 carries and a touchdown. Let me look while I talk here, but he's used more in the receiving game than I thought he would be, which is props to him, right? And he's going to get touches no matter what. He had 10 total touches, 8 of them being carries. Didn't run the ball particularly well, but he did catch a touchdown. And if Ken Walker goes down, when Ken Walker goes down, I think Zach Charbonnet is going to be good. Hopefully he's healthy this time. Obviously came into this week with an injury tag, but I do think he needs to be owned for sure if you're a Ken Walker owner. But overall, definitely should be owned. He has deep flex value week in and week out with the potential to become an RB2. Then Ty Chandler. Aaron Jones is so good at football. So good at football. I think he's an obvious top 5 running back in the NFL when he's healthy, Aaron Jones. But he's always hurt. Like he's going to get run into the ground with this Vikings team. It is what it is. I love Aaron Jones, but he's going to eventually get hurt. And then it seems as though Ty Chandler is going to be that majority leader in the backfield. And if he is that, I think he's an RB2 at worst. So if you're an Aaron Jones owner, definitely go pick up Ty Chandler. Even if you're not an Aaron Jones owner and you have a roster spot open, definitely go pick up Ty Chandler. Then the number 1 trending player in fantasy, according to Sleeper, most picked up player, Justice Hill. Certainly, PPR league, Justice Hill needs to be owned. You can tell if it's going to be a game for the Ravens where they are going to be battling for points or trailing, like we knew for week 1. In those scenarios, you definitely want to get Justice Hill in your lineup in PPR in the flex spot. And even just week in and week out, I think he's going to be an okay flex. But obviously in those games where they are chasing points, he is going to be a much better option. And then finally, Bucky Irving, I thought looked really good. He ran really fucking tough. He looked good for the Buccaneers. And if Rashad White goes down, gets injured at all, Bucky Irving is going to be that majority guy in the backfield. He will be an RB2 in my rankings if White is out. So deep league, Rashad White owners, etc., definitely go pick up Bucky Irving. Got to do that. And then I would say the next biggest position this week for pickups, and the position that people are going to have the most questions about in terms of their own starting lineups. Let's talk about tight ends next here. Number 1 pickup for tight ends, you'll hear it across the entire industry. It's not a surprising take, right? Isaiah Likely looks good. Ravens were very, very willing, and this is what they weren't willing to do previously. They were very willing to just have him chip and just find an open spot in the defense, get the ball, and then do all your damage after the catch, which is what he's best at. He's not a route runner. He is not going to beat the defense with his route. He's not typically going to find the soft spots on the defense if he has to think about a route as well. But if it's like, hey, make sure our quarterback doesn't get killed and then go get open, he's going to be really good. And he is way more talented than Mark Andrews, obviously. He had some nice blocks, so it kind of shows that he's not necessarily a liability in the run game, whereas maybe earlier in his career he may have been. So definitely go pick up Isaiah Likely. With the caveat, you saw his best game of the season. Yes. Will he be consistent? No. But most tight ends are not consistent, and he has as high of a ceiling as anybody. He still is going to be the tight end 1 In terms of the top pickup for tight ends for me, I just don't think it's going to be super consistent. So I'm not going to bank on it. I'm not putting him in my lineup ahead of a Travis Kelce or a Sam Laporta. Would I put him ahead of Mark Andrews? Maybe. I'm not a Mark Andrews fan. I'm biased, but maybe. Next, and this is for the next month or so, probably 3-ish weeks. I think Colby Parkinson looked really good. He is the guy who I picked up a lot if I didn't draft a tight end early, if I drafted a TJ Hawkinson. Colby Parkinson's the guy that I went to, and it looked good, obviously, for week 1. And if Puka is now out for at least 1 week, that only helps Colby Parkinson in terms of targets. I don't think he's going to be, a 10 target guy or anything, but if he can get 5 targets per game, I think he's pretty good. And he looked good in week 1. If he's going to be widely unowned, obviously, if I can pretty much guarantee in your league, Colby Parkinson is available. So if you're worried about your tight end 1, even if you have like a Cole Kmet, we talked about Cole Kmet, you're not really having any confidence in, I think you can go pick up Colby Parkinson and start him over Cole Kmet next week. I feel good about that. And then the third one I wrote down, if you have any questions about tight ends or anything at all, definitely comment it. I'll check it after this. Hasn't played yet, so sort of calling my shot. Tough matchup, so it could be a tough week 1. But I do know Aaron Rodgers likes Tyler Conklin a lot. So if you're struggling at tight end, you need a replacement for an injured tight end. I think Tyler Conklin is going to be a decent option for you. We'll see what happens tonight. Really tough matchup on both sides, really. We could see not a ton of passing yards in this game, but we also could see some really big plays on busted coverages. So we shall see. But Tyler Conklin, regardless, Rodgers likes him a lot. So Rodgers targets the players he likes. I've seen it a lot. That's not a knock on Rodgers. It's just you have to have Rodgers' trust because of the throws that he makes. And Tyler Conklin has his trust. So he should be good. Wide receivers here. I'll say that same thing. I'm going to say somebody else in that same game. So for wide receivers, I think Mike Williams is underowned in too many leagues. Playing as the wide receiver 2 next to Garrett Wilson. Mike Williams should see a lot of one-on-one. He could very easily become a James Jones-like player for the Jets, catching a lot of touchdowns, being a field stretcher. This is a guy that so many fantasy analysts were like drooling over for no reason with the Chargers. He's going to have this huge breakout. And then now nobody wants to even own him. Like certainly the middle ground here is the correct one. It's that he could be a very good complement to a very good receiver. That's what the Jets have in Garrett Wilson. And they have a very good running game. So Mike Williams at best is going to be the third target for the defense out there. He's going to see a lot of one-on-ones. He's going to see a lot of big plays if he stays healthy. And obviously it's a big if. It's obviously a big if. You're not investing anything really in Mike Williams if you're picking him up. You didn't draft him high. You're not getting disappointed because of that. But Mike Williams is that boom or bust fantasy week 2 pickup. He could be fantastic. He could be terrible. I say this before Monday Night Football. So we'll see if Mike Williams exits Monday Night Football healthy. But I do think he could be a very good pickup for a lot of teams this year. Not a lot of wide receivers, I think, really caught my eye. But I will say DeMarcus Robinson, if Puka Nacua is out. We saw DeMarcus Robinson did at the end of last year. He definitely proved that he can be a viable option in this offense. So go ahead, pick him up. Wan'Dale Robinson, he was the leading receiver for the Giants last year, 60-something catches, I think. He's super talented, and I think he played good week 1. I think he could be a nice little pickup as well. Who is the Broncos guy? Vele? Let me go find his exact name. I don't love him. Yeah, the rookie, Devon Vele from Utah, 6'5", 26, seems to be one of Sean Payton's guys. And if he's got the good graces of Sean Payton, he's going to be on the field and see a lot of targets. 8 targets in week 1, 8 catches in week 1, 39 yards. Eventually, those targets will stretch out a little bit, but 8 targets, 8 catches, not a fluke. Not a fluke. You don't accidentally get 8 catches or 8 targets. So, deep league, obviously widely available. So, deep league, go pick up Vele. In Dynasty, I'm picking up Vele in the one league that he's unowned. But yeah, like he's not overly exciting. You're not picking him up to start him in week 2. But if his role grows from 8 targets, then shit, like he's going to be good. Doesn't seem like Troy Franklin's going to do anything to, take that role away from him. He was a healthy scratch. Cortland Sutton's still there. I still think he's good. We got Josh Reynolds there. I think he's a decent player, but Vele is Sean Payton's guy. And Sean Payton is going to overrule absolutely everything for the people he likes, right? Jaleel McLaughlin, that's a Sean Payton guy. Devon Vele, Sean Payton guy. So deep league, not a must pick up, but he is certainly somebody to keep your eye on. Just going through the injuries that we talked about, if we want to be smart with our pickups. Jordan Addison hurt. I believe Naylor was the next guy to really get involved. I don't think his stats were great. 1 catch, 21 yards, touchdown. So not a zero must pickups for Minnesota's receiving core, but I do think he would be the next guy up for whatever that is worth. What is the ownership of Ray McLeod? Because I do think that was not a fluke. Sleepers, ownership's a little fucked up. But he played 54% of the snaps, 7 targets, 52 catches, deep league pickup. But I do like Ray McLeod. I like Darnell Mooney, too. I think he has a chance to figure it out as well. But the entire Atlanta receiving core should improve. Or passing game should improve. If there is no other questions, we may just dip out of here. Did I write down anything else? I don't think so. We will have on flurrysports.org, we will have a waiver wire pickups article tomorrow morning with a bunch of players. I may write some individual player ones today, but Henry will have a full big one tomorrow morning, flurrysports.org. My power rankings will be out tomorrow morning as well. Wednesdays, my rankings are out, and we have the ranking show here every Wednesday night. So subscribe so you don't miss that, and bookmark it on flurrysports.org. Bookmark flurrysports.org so you can see the rankings over there. Smitty, what's up? Ramondre or Etienne? That's a tough one. I don't think the Patriots are going to be in very many positions like they were week 1, playing with a lead and stuff. I think Ramondre is the better talent. I think Etienne's has the better opportunity this year. So I'm still sticking Etienne, but I do think it's a lot closer than what you and everybody else maybe thought prior to week 1. I worry about both of them scoring touchdowns for different reasons, right? I worry about Ramondre scoring touchdowns because I don't think they're going to be in the red zone very often. I worry about Etienne scoring touchdowns because I think Tank Bigsby has the shot to vulture a lot. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the guy who has the offense, who's going to be making trips to the red zone. So I still like Etienne, and he should have bigger games. But yeah, that's a close one, actually. Otherwise, we got streamers articles coming to flurrysports.org this week. We got the start sit articles. We have the start sit stream on Thursdays. A lot of fantasy content. If there's specific fantasy football content that you guys want to see, let me know either in the live chat right now, let me know in the comments under the video, or any other video, any other stream coming up. Because if there's something you guys want to see, if there's something you specifically want to see, there's a chance that other people would enjoy it as well, and we want to deliver that to you, especially if there's content that you're not necessarily seeing on other sites, other channels, stuff like that. They're like, oh, this would be really cool and helpful, actually. Let me know, and I would love to serve that need for you, whether that be DFS stuff, NFL Survivor pool picks, other NFL betting, props, picks, stuff like that. Let me know if there's interest in that. Maybe breaking down snap counts, target share, stuff like that from each game, each team for the week. Let me know. We can definitely do stuff like that. That could be fun and useful. Would you trade Tank Dell and Evan Engram for Sam Laporta? That's close. I think so. Obviously, you're getting the best player in the trade, right? That's why you're trying to trade for him. Yeah, I love buying low on Sam Laporta after this week. And you're talking about, I still think Sam Laporta is the number 2 receiving options in that offense, right? Tank Dell is at best the 3rd, and Evan Engram at best is probably the 3rd as well. So, yeah, I would do that trade for Sam Laporta, assuming Tank Dell isn't a starter for you. Assuming Tank Dell's on your bench and you're not really using him, definitely do that. Ralph asks, I have Ayuk and CMC today going against Wilson. What are my chances? I mean, is it a wash right now? It depends on if your points are even. If your points are even, you're good. If you're down by 50, you're going to struggle. So let me know that. I would assume if you're even, you're good to go. But if you're down, obviously, which I assume you're down, but that. Otherwise, while we wait for that, what else? Is there any other new news out there? Pro Football Talk. Let's see. Headlines. Jake Ferguson, MCL sprain. Okay, that's good. I don't want him to be hurt. But in terms of something torn, something sprained, MCL sprain for Jake Ferguson. We just talked about MCL sprain for Jordan Love. Same sort of timeline. Jake Ferguson is, he has to be a little bit more mobile. He's in less precarious situations, but he does have to be a little bit more mobile. 3 to 6 weeks. 3 to 6 weeks. So if you have Jake Ferguson as your starter, and a lot of people do, you're going to be looking for somebody else. Smitty has Amon-Ra and Evans as your starting receivers. Obviously, 2 very good receivers. If Tank Dell's your wide receiver 3, I think I'd still do that trade, but I would be trying to figure out what your wide receiver 3 is. You're up. Okay. So Ralph is up by 3 points, has Ayuk and CMC going against Garrett Wilson. You should be fine. If you're not, that's crazy. I don't know how great Ayuk will be in this matchup. Obviously, super tough matchup for him. But Christian McCaffrey should outscore Garrett Wilson by himself, I would assume. But yeah, you got that 3-point cushion. You should be good. Other news, Derek Brown out for season probably. Not huge for fantasy. Will Levis called his pick 6 a boneheaded play. You're correct. Trevor Lawrence says we gave the game away. Yes, that's a pattern in your NFL career. Nothing big. Top stories. Nothing crazy. Joe Burrow says it's not accurate to say Jamar Chase isn't practicing, or not accurate to say Jamar Chase not practicing impacted the offense. Okay, then what did? Was it T. Higgins not being there? Because if it's T. Higgins not being there, T. Higgins should get paid before he comes back. T. Higgins has the chance to parlay this into some money. And he should, because he's a damn good football player. Getting done dirty by the Bengals. For sure. This is such a shitty situation for him. Yeah, there isn't really much else to report. The rumor mill. Let's see. Okay, nothing. Nothing at all. Just a sec. Where's my tab for injuries? Here we go. Any new injury information? No. Just that the Panthers got worse. Good for them. Derek Brown out for the year, most likely. Sucks because he's a good player, but holy shit. I said this to Luke before week 1, making a survivor pool picks, and I'm going to tell all of you, if you are in a survivor pool, pick against the Panthers until you can't. Just pick against the Panthers until you can't. This is by far the worst team in the NFL. There really isn't a close second. The offense is bad. The offensive line isn't very good. The receiving core is bad. The quarterback isn't that good. And defensively, they fucking blow. Who do you think would be a good fit for Green Bay as a backup quarterback that you like? I mean, I've been screaming at the mountaintops for Green Bay to get anybody that has any sort of experience. So truthfully, right, whoever they pick up, hopefully is a better backup than Malik Willis or Sean Clifford. I do not hate Brian Hoyer. I really don't. He is not exciting. He will not move the needle. It's not going to make Packer fans feel a ton better. But if Brian Hoyer is in, he knows how to pick up offenses quickly. He's played with new situations a lot. I think he's going to be serviceable for this offense for the next month. And then if he is the one backing up Jordan Love, mentoring Jordan Love, helping prepare him for the week, that helps a ton. Because I don't know why the Packers feel the need to continually get backup quarterbacks for Jordan Love who are somehow less experienced than him. I don't understand it. I don't know the strategy. It's the same thing as the receiving core. This receiving core this season would be a million times better if they got any sort of veteran in their receiving core last year or this year. That's all they had to do. Just bring in a vet to show them how to practice, to show them how to prepare. But no. So they need to get somebody who is experienced. I would like Tannehill. I don't blame Tannehill for not wanting to come. I would like Brian Hoyer. There really isn't much available in terms of who they can just sign, unfortunately. If they could somehow trade for Joe Flacco, I would love that. I'm a Blake Bortles guy. Call him up. See where Blake Bortles is. See what he can do. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of players who are in that Sean McVay-like offense. I don't know. Not a ton out there. Shit. Call Tom Brady. Why not? It would work. It'd be fine. We'll leave it at that. There are options for the Packers. If the Packers roll into week 2 with a quarterback on their roster as the starter, I would pick the Colts to win the game. And we will be back. I will be back Wednesday night for sure. We'll be live. And we'll see about tomorrow, because we could do something fun tomorrow for ad drops. But if you have any other questions after this stream, definitely go to YouTube. A lot of you are on YouTube right now. Just comment under the video any ad drop, fantasy football, trade questions that you have. I will answer them, and I assume other people from Flurry will answer, and other people from the community will answer as well. Or you can go to Facebook. I believe it's linked in the description. Fantasy Football by Committee. We see running back by committee in the NFL right now. It takes multiple guys to fill a backfield. You don't have to win by yourself. Go to Fantasy Football by Committee, ask your questions, read some good stuff, and we will win our leagues together. Go over there, link in the description. Sergio has a question before we get out of here. And if anybody else has questions, definitely ask them as well. In a 12-team PPR, 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 receiver, 2 flex, who would you look to trade to acquire? So his quarterback is Lamar. Then he has Olave, McLaurin, Bijan, Etienne, Worthy, Ferguson, Chase Brown, Trey Benson, Sutton, Polk. So obviously you're weak at receiver. I think your running backs are good. Weak at wide receiver 2. I would not trust Terry McLaurin in that offense whatsoever. I would, if there is a James Conner owner. If you can sell Trey Benson to the James Conner owner and really hype them up about how this Cardinals running game is actually decent, is pretty good. And when James Conner gets hurt, Trey Benson's the obvious RB1 there. So if you could sell him with a ton of value, I would do that. You're not trading ETN for Marvin Harrison Jr. Let's talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm going to say the same thing that I've said for the past month. Marvin Harrison Jr. has no riz. And what I mean about that, you can say riz, you can say swag, you can say energy, you can say whatever. Him and Kyler Murray are going to give each other the silent treatment all fucking year long. That's the issue. Usually, if there's a wide receiver one or any wide receiver, they're kind of a head case. They are what they are, but it's a good thing, right? Look at Stephon Diggs. He takes it a little bit too far, but you need a receiver who's going to demand the ball. If Kyler Murray tells Marvin Harrison Jr. to do something and he doesn't do it, Kyler Murray he's not outspoken enough to say something, right? That's an issue. That's a Jordan Love thing. That's a multiple quarterback, right? They're just silent. They're not too high, not too low, but they don't hold people fucking accountable. That's Kyler Murray's issue. Marvin Harrison Jr., he'll be wide open. Maybe he'll raise a hand, but he's not going to come back and be like, give me the fucking football. That's an issue too. So these guys are going to give each other the silent treatment the entire time. There's no leader. There's no anything. There's no accountability. There's no demanding the football. And then all of a sudden, like he gets ignored. And that's what happened in week 1. And it's going to happen too much this season, man. There's no doubting Marvin Harrison Jr.'s talent. Absolutely zero doubting it. But like shit, he needs a little Malik Neighbors in him. He needs to change his mindset a little bit, because if him and Kyler Murray are both like this, it's not going to work. And that's how you feel about McLaurin with Daniels. Daniels is a selfish player. I mean, it's just the offense for Washington is going to look so different in week 5 than it did in week 1. They don't know what the fuck they want to do. And that's a little bit Cliff Kingsbury as well. He doesn't know how to coach. But they're going to be changing. They'll be evolving. They will get Terry McLaurin the football a little bit more. I just don't trust it. I don't trust it. So if you can, I mean, truthfully, if you could go something like Terry McLaurin and Chase Brown, or Terry McLaurin and Trey Benson, and upgrade that wide receiver 2 that way, I'd be happy with that. I'm fine with using the hype from Xavier Worthy in week 1 to trade him. Either way, no matter what, I think I'm doing a package, but I would go Xavier Worthy and somebody to upgrade that wide receiver 2. Because I do think Ezekiel Elliott's going to be an okay flex for you. I think he's going to fall into the end zone more weeks than not. So I'm okay with Zeke. I think you can rely on him a little bit. Not a must trade, but I think you're going to be okay no matter what. But yeah, you need something a little bit more reliable at wide receiver 2. And Xavier Worthy's not going to score 2 touchdowns every week, right? He's not going to score 1 touchdown every week. But people are really hyped up about him, rightfully so. But that makes this a awesome time to trade him, especially with Marquise Brown coming back. Like if that's going to take away from anybody, it might take away from Xavier Worthy. It's not really going to take away from Rashee Rice. So I would do that. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions, definitely comment them under the video. I'll be chopping this up into other videos for the YouTube channel. So definitely like it, support, subscribe. And if you have a fantasy question and want to comment under the videos, do so. And I promise I'll answer it. And I can pretty much promise that other people will answer it as well. Oh yeah, you only need one running back. Great point. Great point. But you need 2 flex. So it's, in my mind, given your team, it's still 2 running back, 1 flex, right? You're starting both Bijan and ETN. I wouldn't get rid of them. They're basically your 2 best players. So yeah, I don't think I would do it, because if you got rid of ETN for a wide receiver 2, you're kind of in the same position. So I would keep them. I'd keep them. And you're not trading ETN on a high, right? You're kind of trading them on a low. I don't sell low, buy high. I do the opposite. Sell high, buy low. Sell Xavier Worthy, buy somebody who maybe struggled week 1. I would do that. But yeah, see you guys soon. Go to flurrysports.org. Go to Fantasy Football by Committee on Facebook. Subscribe here